First of all, Happy New Year everyone. Let's hope that this year ends up in a better place than the last. To start off a new year of new videos, I thought it might be fun and interesting to go behind the scenes again and look at my email spam folder, so that you'll get to see just what kind of spam a scientist, or in particular an astrophysicist, gets. Now you might have some preconceived ideas of what you might expect to find in a spam folder, but what you find in mine might actually surprise you. So take a moment and think about what may be in there and let me know in the comments. But without further ado, let's venture into my email spam folder. I have my trusty laptop here with me, so let's just dive straight in. So the first thing that you might notice is that there are a few emails here, and this first one probably shouldn't be here. This one's from the American Astronomical Society, and for whatever reason, Gmail has decided to send this to spam. But they're just wishing me a happy new year. So nothing too nefarious there. But the rest of these emails are actually spam, although they might not seem like it, because, say, this second one, it looks like it's wanting papers. It's talking about it's a journal and they're looking for fast-tracked publications. The next one, this one looks like a lot of fun, Faking the Science for Pupils, Part 3. Let's save that one for last, perhaps. Then the third one, what is this? Technicum Science, an invitation, call for papers. Alright, so that's the second spam email that's wanting papers submitted. Alright, what is next? We have some quarantine one, we'll ignore that. Next is Journal Quest. This also sounds like an academic journal. Call for papers 2020. Okay, so a third email. What's the next one? That's also something about papers. And the next one after that, quarantine, skip over, papers, quarantine, papers. So of all of my spam emails, the vast majority of them are asking me for papers. Surely, as a young research scientist, this should make me feel fantastic and special, because lots of people want to get my thoughts on various topics of science. Well, let's look into this and see what they're asking. So here we have a journal, and if you just skim through it, blah blah blah, publication time pretty quick, 15 to 20 days. That's really quick actually. Most journals, if you submit to them, will take on the order of a few months for the peer review process to take. And that's just because everyone is very busy and it's hard to find time sometimes to actually sit down and review a paper. But then we get to the juicy part, the part of this email that matters. Charges $2,500 US. That seems pretty steep, perhaps. And in fact, it might be surprising that a journal is asking a scientist to pay to submit an article to them at all. Now this is the sad truth of science. All of the papers that we submit are not really, we get nothing for them. Most journals you have to pay to submit your paper to the journal for it to be peer reviewed, and then you don't get any monetary gain from any of that, or even if you're a reviewer peer reviewing someone else's work. You also don't get any money for doing the peer review process. It's just kind of assumed as a scientist you'll do good for your community and try and verify the science of others. Now this is a pretty big problem in science, I personally feel. This idea that these journals are actually taking an awful lot of money off of people. These are legitimate journals that charge a lot of money. The worst offender, I think, is Nature. It's often held up as the most prestigious journal, but really speaking, it's not really that good. They charge an awful lot of money and then they put it behind a paywall. So the research that a scientist does is then blocked by money that you have to pay to Nature to view the article that they didn't make, but a scientist put years of work into and then just submitted to them for the peer review process. So astronomy has ways around this, or physics in general, called archive. So most of the papers that are published in journals are now put on archive that can be viewed for free. So this is a nice workaround, but it still doesn't get around kind of the moral issue of researchers spending money on journals that lock research behind a paywall. But anyway, that's a broader comment about the journal community in general. Let's go back to this email. So they're asking for money to publish a paper really quickly. That seems kind of sketchy. You can't just publish a paper really quickly if you're doing science correctly. You need to go through the peer review process. And the peer review process is long and torturous. And it should be that way because everything needs to be checked and improved. There is never a piece of science that is perfect as it is submitted. It always needs to be revised and improved. There will always be something that you forget, like I always forget to do things or forget to include a paper. So the reviewer will tear the paper to shreds that you submit and improve it. Peer reviewing improves and verifies science, so it's great that we have it. It's not so great that there are these supposed journals that are saying give us $2,500 and we'll take your paper very quickly. So this is the first one. How about the next one? If we look through this here, they say this one's pretty cheap actually. It only wants a publication fee of 100 euros, discounted from 200 euros. Wow, what a bargain. Plus a certificate of publication. How special is that? This certificate of publication means absolutely nothing. There is no such thing. So if you were, say, a young scientist not too into the publishing scene, you might get confused by these things and think, yes, this is actually pretty cheap as far as submitting to journals go, and I'll get a certificate to tell me that I've submitted to a good journal. And they say what their research areas are that they accept papers for. Wow, science. Brilliant. They take papers in science. And they apparently have an H-index of 4. What this H-index is supposed to be is something called the impact factor. And the impact factor is what we kind of broadly refer to as the number of citations you would expect a paper to receive if it's submitted to a particular journal. So this is how the journal ecosystem works. You want your work to be seen by a lot of people and cited by a lot of people so that your discoveries attract more attention and you acquire more credit in the scientific community. And that credit can be used to leverage collaborations with other people or even get more money to do more science. So as science is structured at the moment, citations on papers is very important. So knowing the impact factor of a journal is actually pretty important. And this goes back to the point before of why would someone want to spend thousands of dollars to submit a paper to a journal, say Nature? Well, the reason being is that it has a high impact factor. Like it or not, Nature gets a lot of eyes on it. So if you have an impactful discovery and you want a lot of people to see it, you'd probably submit to Nature. But getting back to this, so they say that it has an H-index of 4, and we'll say an impact factor of 4 because an H-index is something different. And here is some table of contents. All of their fantastic articles and a WhatsApp number. Do not send anything to this WhatsApp number. You'll end up on a list. Okay, so Technican Science is on WhatsApp. Brilliant. Quest Journal, what do they want? Ooh, they'll publish your article within 48 hours. That's the fastest we've ever seen. Wow, 48 hours, report within 24 hours by a team of 200 plus reviewers. Wow, that's incredible. They don't say anything about the nature of these reviewers though. Are they just random people they find off the street, or are they peers of your scientific community that actually know what the article is about? Probably not the latter. Okay, so this one is also pretty cheap, especially for a 48-hour turnaround time. I mean, that's pretty quick, that's good. And they have an impact factor of 7, so if you submit a paper to them, you should expect to get 7 citations. That's better than the last one, which had a apparent H-index of 4. Okay, so we're going through these, and I think you can get the gist of what's going on here. They each ask for money, and they each claim that they have some special, quick publication period that you can take advantage of. Now, what do all of these emails actually want? What are they? Well, they're what we call predatory journals. And these journals, as the name suggests, prey on researchers. Say someone who is relatively new and not sure what they're doing. You get an email from one of these predatory journals that say, we can publish a paper pretty quickly, and say you need to have a paper out for some grant deadline or something. You see this and you think, alright, here's my chance, here's how I can get my paper in, and it has a high impact factor, so it should turn out to be good. Well, this is the sad truth here is that it's a scam. All of these journals don't actually exist, and they certainly aren't recognized as scientific journals, not a peer review process. So you'd submit your paper to these people, you would pay X amount of dollars, and in some cases you'll be lucky enough to get a certificate of publication, how fancy. But the rest of the scientific community won't care at all. It doesn't matter if I publish 1,000 papers in one of these predatory journals. No one will care. In fact, it would probably discredit me in the scientific community because I would look extremely gullible and stupid, and the papers I was publishing would be absolutely terrible because there'd be no peer review process going in to make sure the science was correct and the papers were as good as they could possibly be. So, this is what takes up the majority of my spam folder, and I think this is probably true for most scientists. Every now and then we'll also get a fun email inviting us to a scam conference or to be part of some research proposal. You've got to be wary of these things at all time, but generally they're pretty easy to spot. But the really fun and exciting spam we get are the ones that you generally don't want to receive too often. It's always nice to have one once in a while, but never fun to have lots coming in. And these are the crazy spams. Okay, so let's look at Faking Science with the Pupils Part 3. So this first part is this email sender is complaining that no one is receiving their emails or replying to them because they've uncovered some fundamental truth about science and everyone's ignoring them. Big science is getting in the way. Alright, so what are they claiming? Well, this is a lot of text. Let me read through this and we'll highlight the best parts. So reading through this, it's just through the first few paragraphs. The first thing to note is that this person thinks that Nobel Prizes that have been given out have been given to wrong things. Of course, they haven't been given to their research, which hasn't been peer-reviewed. Okay, so this sentence here is quite amusing. I would like to advise the Nobel Committee that prizing imbecility is fun, but they should pay also some speechwriters for helping the laureates to deliver some more consistent and nicer presentations during the festival. Okay, so immediately calling scientists stupid is a good way to start, and saying that they can't speak is also another good way to go. I will admit some scientists can't give presentations to save their lives, but it is getting better with the younger generations. Well, that is too long for me to really care about reading, and I can't see the point too quickly. It looks like they have an issue with general relativity or something like that. More often than not, these kind of emails do have issues with general relativity. Anyway, that's it for this look into the spam folder of an astrophysicist. Lots of predatory journals on the prowl. So this year I'll be making lots more videos, so hopefully we'll all learn something as the year goes on. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a very good year.